So my sharing today on this Palm Sunday is centered around that rather long reading that we always get on Palm Sunday from Luke's Gospel, chapter 23 and verses 1 to 49. And as we consider again this Palm Sunday account of Jesus entering into Jerusalem, so we start to see in the narrative that very definite shift, that change of mood and tempo. From the crowds cheering and that real sense of excitement and anticipation, through to Jesus being arrested, ultimately tried, convicted, and crucified. And we see in those handful of verses that swing from triumph to tragedy, as those shouts, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord," turn to crucify him. We will not have this man to rule over us. And as we read Luke's account, so we saw how some of those characters reacted and responded as they played their part in what is ultimately God's plan of salvation for creation. But I wonder, as we reflect upon some of those characters that Luke records, I wonder, which of those characters would you find yourself identifying with? As you look into your heart, which Christianity always challenges us to do, I wonder, in which of those characters do you see something of yourself? Would it, for example, be Pilate, who finds himself somehow caught in the middle, wanting to do the right thing and wrestling within himself, knowing that he could be, no, that he should be stronger, and yet somehow finding himself sort of held over a barrel by others, feeling that his hands are somehow tied, that circumstances are beyond his control, and he doesn't really have the courage to stand up for what he believes in. Or maybe it might be Herod, who sees this newfangled Christianity as some sort of game, mere entertainment, seeing Jesus as there just to amuse, to satisfy, to perform a miracle, like some sort of magician or circus entertainer, offering nothing of any real substance to the world. And so it's Herod who then fails to recognize the gravity, the significance, and the reality of the situation. He fails to see that Christ is not there for our entertainment, but he's there for our salvation. You might find yourselves identifying with one of the crowd who are unknowingly being manipulated by others. They're caught up in the emotion of the moment, and they again are unaware of the gravity of what's going on around them. They shout, "Away with him, crucify him. We'll not have this man to rule over us." And yet they've got no idea of what they're saying or why, or even the impact and the implications of their actions. It might be that you see something of yourself within the Jewish authorities. Their sole purpose appears to be the retaining of order, holding on to power and control, whether that's over themselves or over others. They were calculating and selfish, with their aim being to keep things as they had always been. Or what about Peter? How readily might you identify with him? Peter, who we don't really see in this account, but we know in the story, he's brash and bold, and yet he fails to put his claim into practice. He turns away. Peter, who has glimpsed Messiah, and yet finds that his faith falters, and he's left feeling ashamed. Peter, who has grasped something of God's plan and purpose, but can't fully grasp how God is going to put that into action, as it were. Or maybe you might identify with the soldiers. They're confident in their own strength, their own position. Jesus is simply just another man who will, for all of his outlandish claims, die like any other man. They've no real thought on the matter. For them, it's just another day at the office. But then lastly, I wonder if you've ever seen anything of yourself in the thief on the cross next to Jesus, or anything of him in you. For he is simply a nobody. We don't know his name or what he's done. He's overlooked by everybody, and yet he knows that he has done wrong, and he knows that he needs forgiveness. And yet, as he looks at all that is going on around him at that moment, it's he, of all the characters that we see, it's the thief on the cross who says, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And he hears those words spoken to him. Today, you will be with me in paradise. I wonder, who would you most identify with? Of all of the characters that we see on this Palm Sunday reading, who would you see most of within yourself? As we think about these characters and their differing reactions to this man, Jesus Christ, Messiah, and as we think about our own reactions today, then my prayer would be, may we remember that whoever we are, wherever we may find ourselves today, and whatever our reaction or response to this event within human history, may we remember that Jesus did this for all humanity. He died for each one of us, for you and for me. He was willing to selflessly give himself, the ultimate act of love for you and for me. I wonder, this Easter, how will you respond? How will you respond to the claim that Easter makes? Death in God for the salvation of creation. How will you respond to the challenge that these claims present to us today? To follow the way of Christ towards life, to offer ourselves as living sacrifices. For we like the characters in our gospel reading then, so we today can choose how we react and how we respond. I wonder, today, and as we approach Easter, how will you choose to respond? Amen.